Welcome back to Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest, and I am happy to be back here with you today with another episode, not quite in the usual format, and we are breaking reality as we know it, and we are going into new phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, as we continue to take new steps forward, I decided to get a piece of my own history, and with the Time Stone, I was able to grab an episode of my other podcast, Mr. Honest, self-titled, and here is a post-episode discussion for Avengers Endgame, a roundtable discussion. It is with a few people you probably don't know. It is a few people that were in my life, and some still in my life, some not at the time. But it is just a good, genuine, raw reaction to the movie Avengers Endgame. And I think it's a good... I just think it's a really good thing to share that I got a reaction out of, that I sort of separated this side of my podcast, Mr. Honest, into its own podcast, Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. And this is kind of these sort of episodes in Mr. Honest sort of generated the idea to start my own podcast, forming into Marvel Maniac and MCU After Show. So I think it's about time that I'd showcase a little bit of what was the beginning idea of Marvel Maniac, and also give the my raw take with my friends, walking almost directly out of the theater of one of the greatest movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, ever. It's Avengers Endgame, and this was exactly how I saw it. It's raw, it's hilarious, it's real, and I have a raspy voice. I'm off the wire, I'm off the rail. I'm wacky with my friends, and I'm not completely the best host. We grow over time. So in Mr. Honest, from episode 1 to the current timeline, I like to consider it a journey as me growing and learning as a podcaster how to become a better podcaster, a better host. I will just say that if you want to go check out that podcast, it's wherever else you get your podcast, Mr. Honest. Allow me to take you back to May 10th, 2019, where I had just seen Avengers Endgame for the second time, and I was geared up with my friends to talk about it.
Are we recording right now? We're recording right now. Jesus. This is the Mr. Honest podcast. This is the Avengers post-watch episode. We all saw it. We all been there. It took a long time for me to set this stuff up today. I've been sitting here awkwardly with Dave and Zach, who don't really know each other, and they've just been making small talk for an hour.
You're making it seem more awkward than it was.
No, I am. I've been trying to set this up, and it's been going pretty bad, almost similar to how it went for Thanos in Avengers Endgame. Man, Portal 1. Iron Man, Black Panther. Get this man his shield. Get this man his shield. Get this man his shield. Feel all the eyes on me in this room. They're like, man, why is he doing this? But I'm happy you guys are here. Dave?
I'm happy to be here.
Ethan?
I am happy to be here.
And Zach?
Yeah, I'm here.
Zach's here.
Also, I'm here.
And that's the Mr. Honest podcast. This is Mr. Honest. Zach.
Sorry,
Zach.
Every time I'm here, I kick the table.
And there's some of the people here, they have to leave in 10 minutes, and I just did that.
Some of the people.
Some of the people. Ethan.
Thank you for being honest.
Of course. Yeah.
That's why they call
Okay, so the movie came and went just as my tears did. Did anyone get any cries? Yeah, Ethan snapped.
All right, and that's our episode. All right, you guys stay tuned. We'll be back next who knows when.
Zach saw it with me my third time. Ethan, how many times did you see it?
I've seen it 3 times. I'm actually going to go see it again this week with my girlfriends.
Nice. Dave, probably once.
It was once.
Dave, it has a life.
Also one time. I've also only seen it.
I'm just very satiated by one time. It's like I remember everything.
Satiated is a great word. Yep.
But yeah, even though I only saw it one time, I'll remember everything if you want to mention things.
Do you want to watch it again in our heads before we start?
Is it going to take like 3 hours?
I just saw it. Oh God, this is bad. I'm so uncomfortable. Like I'm like
Is it because of me? Do you want me to move?
A little bit. No. It's not because of you. It's because of the fucking bony seat we got going here. I suck. I don't know what I'm doing here. The Avengers was good. I feel like I've thought all the thoughts about it. Like I should have done this a week ago with you guys. You know.
Well, why don't you say some of the thoughts you're thinking?
I had a really, really sad thought today about the ending. I was thinking about Tony is never gonna see his daughter do anything, you know, that means really nothing because he's dead.
So clearly we're gonna do spoilers here.
Oh yeah, I mean that's completely off the table, whatever you want to call it.
So what me and Dave were saying is they introduced time travel through the whole movie.
Yeah.
And
an unlimited version of time travel.
Unlimited time travel, yeah. As soon as they got to the Pym particles, they had everything.
Yeah, and Pym's back now, so...
Right. So Pym is back. So seeing as they still have the stones, and they have to go put the stones back, why don't they just go back 10 minutes of time and bring Tony back?
Okay, I think what you're missing is you can't interrupt the timelines. If the timelines are okay, we're jumping. Okay, I like where you guys are going with this.
Should we talk plot hole stuff first, or just general feelings?
I want to get Ethan's just whole roundabout thought on this. Why don't you lean into the mic, Ethan, and just tell me you have something to add here clearly, and I'd say we just do a little what we're thinking on the moment while you're here, since you got to go first, so we could talk about a bunch of stuff. So go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna start by saying this. The first 2 times I saw it, I honestly gave this movie a 6.7 out of 10.
Ooh, wow.
There were a lot of plot holes. They did not feel like actually explaining anything, and the only reason why I changed my opinion was Alex Russo came out.
There's no Alex. Anthony.
I can't even talk.
Who cares?
Anthony Russo came out, was it 3 days ago, I think, and explained how all these alternate realities are all literally going on at the same time. So the biggest plot hole, at least still for me, is why the hell is Cap back in this alternate reality?
I don't see it as a plot hole. Can I defend it quickly?
Go ahead.
And explain. Okay, Cap, he gets the stones at the end of the movie. He's got to go back in time to return the stones to the rightful places in time. So he has all those stops, including Asgard with the Tesseract, weirdly going to inject Jane with it. When he goes back, he either...
I'm sorry, I just realized there's a scene where he's reinjecting her with I didn't realize.
That's what I was thinking too. And Cap's got to go back and visit Red Skull. There's something there, why can't we see that? And that was my initial thought, is how is he going to return the Soul Stone to Red Skull? Why don't we see that? I think that's a whole movie on its own. My general prediction, though, with that, Ethan, is that he went back to either the point in the 70s where he saw Peggy through the window, or he took one trip further back after he returned the Tesseract and possibly some Pym particles, went back, lived a life. I've seen theories on YouTube, I can't quote who, I've been watching videos since the movie came out, but mentioning that when he went back, I mean, he lived his whole life, so Hank Pym, Captain America had the knowledge of everything that happened to him in the 60s or 70s where he decided to go back. He has the jumper, he has the technology, he has the suit. So when he was ready to go back to his original timeline, he did one final jump as an old man back to the present. Or he maybe even did this weeks ago, months ago, who knows? But he did jump back. He wasn't an alternate timeline, he had to come back. I mean, they were in alternate timelines. They created... Oh, okay, please cut me off.
I'm going to cut you off.
I see your eyes racing. I want to know what you want to say. I really want to know what you're thinking.
Okay, so he has the time jumper, correct? The only way to get back is on that module.
Right.
So how does he not appear on the module but sit on a random bench in the middle of a place where they literally just had a fight?
I agree agree with that because
and
that's what
I got an idea.
The only way that I saw where he could actually travel to that time and not get noticed is all the Avengers were away from the Avengers mansion for a minute.
Yeah.
But that's still luck. How does he know exactly what time it was?
Or when the giant fight was happening, maybe he popped out of the van. Maybe he knew of another place that is in existence, or maybe they created another way to travel forward.
Oh, wait,
with the coordinates.
it doesn't have to be the module, right? Because
It doesn't have to be.
They go back in time
For the time jump, yes.
to go forward to where it
Yeah,
was.
Yes.
because every time else in the movie, when they left, they were on the pad, and when they came back, they were on the pad.
So he
Yeah, but
could,
does that mean it has to be on the pad?
unless they created some kind of technology in their alternate reality.
Yeah.
How old is Cap? Cap has a
they-
super serum. Cap ages slowly. Cap is really old. So Cap has lived a long life, possibly hundreds, if not 100 more years through that timeline. So probably further past 2020, whatever it is in this movie, with the knowledge and the technology to bring to Pym, to bring to a young Howard Stark, to change that timeline ultimately, to really make it however he wants. I mean, he had a key to the future. He changed his timeline and lived a life he wanted to live, and came back at the end to see that moment he always planned.
So Cap, just because, and I'm going to say this kind of frankly,
Please, yeah.
he wanted to go back to his mission was done. He saved the world. He was happy. He wanted to go back. He wanted to be with his love. I understand that. So you change another reality where there's a reality where Cap and Peggy are together.
Yeah.
So there's unlimited questions, but
Yeah.
does his effect coming back into our alternate reality completely screw us over?
How would it? Because he was always with us. He always did what he did.
That we know of. We still have a future. This alternate reality, there's no stop for the reality. You can go to any point of time.
But Cap, we don't know. Cap coming back, you're right. It launched a new reality for him.
And have you guys all seen the Far From Home trailer that came out yesterday?
Yeah, I did see that.
I did not, but
Can I say?
Yeah, he'll.
I'm perfectly fine with spoilers on anything.
I'm like answering for Zach. I'm like, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Because this is the other question, and I know we're probably going to get this in Far From Home, and maybe that's the answer how Cap got back into our reality,
Yeah.
is how did Mysterio get into this reality? If he's from a different dimension.
Got a lot of theories on
There
that.
are.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I think he actually is going to be a good guy. That's going to be the twist. I think those elemental things, they're going to be a real threat, and I think the end twist or the probably post-credits twist is going to be a Mysterio Sinister Six type thing with I think Norman Osborn's going to have come to play in the last 5 years. There's a lot of Spider-Man world building now that 5 years have passed for Spidey. Like a lot of
2023 now.
yeah, now there's a whole other villainous underworld that could be there that Spidey has to take on, or probably not, because I don't know, he goes on vacation, so it can't be that bad. But I'm getting off track here. Can we? You were telling me how
could Cap get back into this reality?
I mean, I'm telling you, it makes 150% sense if he lived a whole life. There was technology in another superhero universe that let him come back to the point in time in which he wanted to. If it were not that exact universe, maybe we were seeing one clip from his universe.
I don't think there's any evidence for that.
There's no evidence. Joe Russo actually, in an interview, confirmed that. He confirmed that Cap, they explain the time travel very clearly, and their rules are very clear that when it's a branch. So once you do something like, we sat here today no matter what. I can go back in the past. We always sat here today. But when I go back in the past, I can't change that we sat here today.
Because that's your past. Right?
I take you out of the room. I'm creating a branch off of this timeline in which we didn't sit here today.
Right,
you know what I mean?
timeline.
So, like, Cap was in his branch the whole life. And then he came back to the moment he left and gave the shield at the end of his life and the original timeline. So he lived a separate timeline and came back to the original timeline when he felt like it. How he found the pad or how he got there, that's the part that you can question until but like that's that's not as relevant. You know what I mean? Like, it's possible. You've got to imagine he found a way.
I feel like
I'm like giving you the smackdown. I'm like, no, you're wrong, Ethan.
I feel like that's the biggest problem, at least for me, that I noticed. I know I've seen the movie 3 times.
I think you're longing. You're longing for what happened to him. You want to know. You want to see it.
But I know I did change after reading that. My opinion's not a 6.7 out of 10.
What is it now?
So it's probably up at a 9.
Oh, that's way up.
There aren't many problems necessarily with it. There's a whole thing where in this alternate reality there's no Thanos. So
yes,
in 2014 that would actually be really interesting unless Tony snapped him back to his universe, which they don't really explain that.
All of these new realities get me very excited, but I don't know how. Well, we know that they're out there, but we also know that we're not going to see Tony, or as far as we know, again. Who knows? With this multiverse thing, Tony could show up at the end of Spider-Man 2 with the Fantastic Four, out of a different multiverse. With the way that they're saying things are going to go, I think the multiverse thing might be something that this guy Jake Gyllenhaal's character Mysterio brought to the table to Nick Fury, and he may be testing Spidey to bring out a real villain, because he's going to be the head of the Avengers. But back to the point of Cap. I don't think we should fixate on it too much. It's not a plot hole as much as it is a piece left out of a story that's not yet completed. We are in the phase. The Infinity Saga is one chunk. There's 3 acts to it. We're going to have probably, ideally, 3 sagas. I don't know how far. That's going to take a long time. I think there's still a lot of answers to be found out. There's a lot of mystery with the Soul Stone. In the comics, the Celestials, the people who created the Eternals, right? Who created the Infinity Stones, they're a big factor in everything. And I just want to say this now while everyone's here. I really think in those 21 days or whatever, Thanos was on that farm. He tried to destroy every stone, which he probably did. I think he had a visit from these things, and they probably couldn't do anything about it. Nonetheless, I don't think he destroyed that Soul Stone. I think he buried it under the garden. I think he's fixated with it. We've seen inside the Soul Stone that scene with little Gamora and Thanos sitting and talking to her. There's so many unanswered questions about the Soul Stone, why the Soul Stone's there, who put Red Skull there, who was there before Red Skull. I am so curious. Why are they tickling our info? Because that we're going to find out. Why wouldn't you want a Captain America cameo in Guardians 2 when they travel back via Doctor Strange to go see if they can find Gamora in Thanos' garden, and then they go to the point in 2014, and then they see Captain America having a standoff with the Red Skull. That's like you know what I mean? In any of these movies, seeing that would be the most epic Easter egg of all time. So it's like, that's what I think. That's my take on all those little plot holes. They always answer the plot holes. They filled plot holes from Thor Ragnarok or not Thor Ragnarok. They made
Ragnarok, yeah. With the Infinity Gauntlet in Odin's chamber.
Oh yeah. They explained that. They explained. They made Thor Dark World better by going back to it and having him talk to his. I'm losing it right now with you guys. What'd you think of Fat Thor? What'd you guys think of Fat Thor?
Thickens.
I loved Fat Thor.
I really would. I want to know. Yeah, I loved him too. Ethan, you disappointed?
I love him. There are a lot of memes if you're very careful on Instagram.
Yeah, I've seen some
there
of those
are
memes.
a lot. I am so happy that they brought the King Thor little Easter egg, if anyone knows that, where his long beard, his long drop.
Is that from the comics?
Hair. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
When he gets both things, both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, and he's like.
Also, I'm pretty sure all of us lost it when Cap actually picked up Mjolnir.
That was so great, man. Oh, Dave, remember when a long time ago when we saw Captain America and Red Skull got blasted off into outer space, and I was like, I think he's still alive, and you were like, well, I don't think so.
I don't remember that. I know you. I heard you reference it on our earlier podcast episode, but I do not remember.
The only things I remember are the things in my life where I spitefully prove people wrong that are close to me.
If they actually happened, yeah.
That happened.
Did it?
And I always said Robert Downey Jr. was going to be the Uncle Ben moment. The Iron Man was Peter Parker's Uncle Ben moment. I've been saying it for years. And
You should write
happened.
these things down.
You could be a millionaire.
Yeah, right? What is that? You know, the king of the theories. What does that even mean?
Wait, is that what that was supposed to be?
What? I forgot. What are you talking about? What was what supposed to be?
Is that like what that whole thing was like with Peter Parker and Iron Man?
Well, not exactly, but it's you don't see the Uncle Ben moment in this series of Spider-Man. In this Spidey universe, Spidey isn't as influenced by the Uncle Ben, or he is, and it's off screen. It's assumed. And in this universe, there's an Iron Man. I mean, in most of the other Spidey movies, there's no Iron Man, so he's his mentor. He's his idol.
I think that's actually very fair because we saw from the preview for the next Spider-Man movie that he actually takes the loss of Tony really, really hard and it affects them. And the guilt and the weight of responsibility, that's moving his character forward, and that's something we haven't seen from his character before.
Yes.
Okay, then it makes sense.
A lot of emotional weight in that trailer. And I didn't know it was going to be such a great follow-up to Endgame. I was a little worried that Sony was going to just take a ball and run with the multiverse and like just fuck everything up. Not that they've really done anything to say that they would yet, but I'm worried.
Well, Sony doesn't have creative control over it.
They have creative say.
Do they?
They make all the profits off of this movie.
Yeah, but that's not creative.
Yeah, you're right. But the MCU,
Creative for
they have
In a way.
they have a hand on Spider-Man. And right now, the contract is up in the air after this movie. So they do. They have we got a little bit of a hostage situation, but did you see what Endgame did at the box office? I don't think Spidey's going anywhere. I think we're gonna see MCU films until we're sick of them, and I hope that's not soon. I hope they keep it as the high quality that it's been. I know it hasn't been perfect. I saw some people complaining about Fat Thor. It ruined the character. You know what? When people fall on hard times, when a guy who probably, like Rocket said, it was pretty much his fault. He did fail humanity in a sense, but the guy lost his brother, he lost his mom, he lost his dad. He just missed the head, then he got the head, and then what happens in 5 years? What do people go through? They go through depression. They hit hard times. They don't know what to do with themselves. Thor had nothing else to live for. He lost. It made sense to me for his character. That was a bold move for this movie, but they stuck with it. It wasn't just a goofy, sticky, fat guy scene in the beginning of the movie. They committed to it. Thor cried to his mom. That was powerful, and at the end when he fought, despite his things that were holding him back, he fought, and he fought hard, and that's my favorite Thor. I'm inspired, you know. I hope. What do you guys think?
See, personally, I love his story arc. It's just like you kind of want to go back and watch the original Thors. It's like he's almost like a spoiled rich kid in the first Thor movie, where he loses his honor, he loses everything that he's used to. He's banished to Midgard, and then he gets that back. The second movie, you see him deal with loss. You see him deal with not being able to control technically the ether. He can't.
Yeah.
It's not something that should be necessarily dealt with, and it's like he also lost his mother at that time. The third one, but the first like 10 minutes you lose Odin, as well as finds out he has a sister, and his sister literally demolishes Mjolnir and like
That's big.
Right before your eyes. I was freaking out in theater seeing that.
And he finds his strength within.
Exactly. And it's like, and this is what I loved about after the whole scene with him talking to his mother, he puts out his hand. He's still worthy. He never changed from being worthy to possess the power of Thor. Well, at least Mjolnir, because power is within him, but he can still possess Mjolnir. He's still worthy, and I think that's what totally arced his storyline in this movie.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well said.
And I know Thor is still one of my favorite characters, but I love how they kind of... I don't always like to admit that there were 2 Thor movies originally, just because they kind of dipped into things that they probably shouldn't have.
Well, they made the conflict way too large for post-Avengers. This giant elf conflict that was too big. It was, and he was a generic villain.
Exactly.
Kind of a cookie cutter villain. But I really love when he reaches his hand out for the hammer, and then the Guardians song, hey, and like that part, like I'm like, oh yeah, we're going back to, and then we're in the beginning of the movie, and Peter Quill's dancing around doing his thing, and then like it cuts up, we see the outside, he's just being an idiot, and then Don
Cheadle, it's a great moment.
War Machine punches him out.
Great.
Very good, very good. I know you got to get going. It's probably about your time. I don't want to kick you out, but I want you to be wary that it's 8:51.
I can wait 9 minutes.
You sure?
People can wait.
Okay.
I'm glad, since just to finish our whole Thor discussion, I'm very happy with the idea of him joining the Guardians.
Yes.
Because Thor 3 was basically Guardians.
Yeah.
So it might as well. Yeah, it might as well combine.
Well, in a sense, they kind of, the tones coming together now, it almost can change your perspective a little bit on the copycat thing.
Oh, no, I have a popular opinion about Thor 3.
But Dave, think about the overarching...
Very comedic.
That's not even my show. Oh, but yeah, we've been through this already.
You're all right.
Okay.
No, but I'm going to go back to it only because it's relevant. I think you see in the line of these movies, if you're watching it as like a series, you're going to see Guardians 2, and then you're going to see probably Spider-Man, you're going to see Thor, you're going to see Infinity War, and then you're going to come back. These Guardians, the Guardians and the Thor movie into the Guardians plus Thor together, it's going to sit real nice because we have Rocket and Thor coming together in line. And that music is brought into it as Guardians are coming. It's all coming together. It's like Thor Ragnarok having that tone. It's like running into the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's almost like lifting up the link for that to be connected. So everything's going to be. It's going to feel right when he's with the Guardians. Thanks to Ragnarok.
I still don't like Ragnarok, but I'm
Fuck
glad.
you, Dave.
I'm glad that he's with that now. If that's the direction they're going with the character, great. I'm glad that he is under James Gunn and that whole thing, because I think Guardians works with that model a lot better than Thor.
What if he just keeps getting fatter and fatter instead of like going back to it?
That'd be a weird character choice.
He just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and then like he's obese Thor, and then on the battlefield he's going to fight like the next big bad, and he has like a heart attack.
Jesus Christ,
that's me.
What if he just had a child and this isn't Fat Thor? It's Dad
pregnant Thor.
Guardians have wombs.
Yeah,
if we so choose.
What if it's just Dad bod Thor?
Literal dad bod.
I mean, not like he carried a child.
I thought that's what you were saying.
I thought that's what you were saying too.
Like him and another person had a child together, and now he's just got a dad bod.
You guys mind if I shift gears a little?
No, not at all.
Well, another storyline that I love. The Endgame was a great. All the characters are arc. I know Hawkeye. I cried all 3 times I saw that first scene.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Well,
but
not really beautiful.
Hulk.
Oh,
it's like even Mark Ruffalo. No. Oh, yes and no.
You got a problem with Hulk?
Yes and no. Mark Ruffalo said after Thor Ragnarok that there's going to be a 3-movie set kind of featuring Hulk and Banner's
arc,
their cooperation, relationship. That's the word.
Yeah.
So you saw in Ragnarok where, take it back. You've seen since the first Hulk movie, they're Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. Yes.
So when you get to Ragnarok, when you find out what happens after Age of Ultron, where he gets summoned here, and he's been Hulk for how many years?
2 years. 2 years straight.
So think of it, and I'm going to be very loose by saying this, but think of it like he's a child. He's 2 years old. He has his own mind.
He's growing up.
And that's also expanded on in Infinity War, where Hulk is like, no, I don't want to. He's on his terrible twos where he just says no and wants to bite everything, although Hulk didn't bite anything. Thank God.
He might have. He just didn't see it.
And then in Endgame, his 3rd movie, movie finally explore that entire realm. I kind of wish they touched upon it more instead of, I think it was like a 6-minute conversation with Ant-Man and I forgot who else was there.
It was
About what?
Ant-Man and Cap and
Black Widow.
About how he
combined the two. And it's like, yes, I love Professor Hulk. I wish they could have explained that more. Maybe even like had a flashback to it.
Yeah.
And then talked about it instead of just saying, hey, well,
This happened
just
on
thought brains and brawn.
Well, think about-
I love the addition of it. I love how they finally put each other together.
Yeah.
I wish they almost showed a little bit more. I might be digging a little bit more into it because I want to see it.
Well,
but
it's just like I've been sitting on it for a week actually since like seeing it every couple days since it came out, and the thing is, Hulk had a lot of time. Everyone had a lot of time. The 5 years thing. I mean, a lot of people want to address that. That's what's bothering them about this. 5 years does a lot to a person. Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, you could see in this one, he's restraining the pain, meaning like he had to become Hulk to almost like feel better about what happened probably. I think like you're exactly right. He's like a kid, but instead of Hulk being his own separate entity kid or whatever, I'd like to see it as Mark Ruffalo putting on a power suit kind of and leveling it up. They're merging together. They're kind of like coming together, and a lot of people wanted him to get stronger, bigger, harder. They wanted to see him Hulk out. They wanted to see first Avengers Hulk ripping people apart. But my thing is, Hulk is a huge iconic character. What they've been doing with him is every movie he changes. So to think that Mark Ruffalo's Hulk isn't going to get to the next level, I think that's crazy. I think he's going to come back. I want to see the solo Hulk movie, but I know a studio's holding that over their heads. There's some reason that they can't do a solo Hulk movie, but why wouldn't they keep him and keep powering him up? You know what I mean? If he didn't do it in this one and he doesn't do it, people are going to be upset. I think they know that. A lot of people had their time in this movie. I wanted to see Hulk go down with Thanos again. I thought that was going to happen. That was like the number one thing I thought would happen that didn't. But yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I got a real kick out of him. I loved Hulk giving Ant-Man the taco. That was a solid moment. You know, real like a lot of like real Spielbergy like heartfelt moments in this movie. The strings, the music, the feeling, the coming together aspect really fiddled on the heart, you know, and having big old Hulk with Rocket going to get Fat Thor out of a situation. I mean, I never would have thought I'd seen that. Like that whole scene was spectacular. I really liked that. Sorry.
You know another thing I'm looking forward to? Sorry.
No.
You don't need to be sorry.
When this movie comes out,
You should talk over Dave anytime you want.
I don't want to talk over you.
That's not what I meant.
But when this movie comes out, if I'm not mistaken, the initial screen time was supposed to be almost 4 hours.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken for Endgame, am I wrong, or was it like 3.5?
I always heard 3.
yeah, I always heard 3 hours.
I heard that they. Well, I didn't hear. I've been watching. They've been starting to do interviews now, Joe and Anthony Russo, and I put a bunch of them in the watch later whenever I see them because they're long. Pop them on in the morning. I watched one this morning. They used almost all the footage they had for this one. They had maybe like 20 minutes of stuff they didn't use. They used almost everything they had.
So then, yeah, that would have made
scenes.
sense. It would have been 3:30 with the.
They did want to bring, I don't know if you've heard this, instead of Tony going to the original Avengers, they wanted to bring him to Asgard with Thor. And they were going to have Tony use this new mechanism on his suit to go stealth, and then Heimdall was going to see him because he could see through it, and there was going to be like this face-off between Heimdall and Iron Man. And like
that would have been cool.
It would have been interesting to have Tony and Iron Man see Asgard, like a completely different world. But they did decide to put him in a situation that he was at, that he knew, and that the audience was familiar with, which I think gave us a lot more of a tingly little feeling seeing the Avengers assemble. What was that look? Dave gave me a look when I said tingly feeling.
Yeah, you just put a little pepper in that. That's fine.
I put a little pepper in it?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
When you were just the tingly little feeling. I felt it. It's okay. It's okay.
So are you saying the tingly tingle wasn't feeling?
I appreciate how you said that.
You're saying you weren't tingling in the feels?
I was tingled. I was completely tingled.
Were you tingled?
Yes.
I don't think you were tintillated enough.
I think with the Hulk, I'm just,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
you can tell, I'm
back
changing
to
this
Hulk,
up.
but no, of course.
I think, I totally agree. I wish there was more development. That more, we said like, I resolved this whole entire relationship with my character. I fixed it off screen and now everything's fine. Yeah, okay, that's,
I just pretty much meant for this.
I understand why they did that, but I appreciate that. I don't know if it was just me, because I only saw it once, but there felt like some very subtle things with the combined character, because when we see, number one, when we see Hulk, like Professor Hulk, next to old Hulk,
right.
he looks smaller.
Yes.
He's not as big, he's not as strong, and also Banner, there are times, this once again might just be me reading into it, he doesn't seem as quick and as sharp.
Oh no, you're so right. It's a mix of the two of them.
Right. So there's a little loss on both sides. And the thing I liked about the character too is that, like Banner of course says, like, he's always angry. There were a lot of little moments with other characters where it seems like the Professor Hulk does have an anger issue.
Yes.
Like when he first comes to Thor, Thor comes up to him and touches him, he says, okay, first don't touch me.
Yeah.
And then he continues on. There's a lot of little moments with other characters, like, okay, he's keeping a lid on everything. But he has this anger problem.
So in that sense, I mean, they are leaving those little character strokes into the movie. I'm using words like stroke and tingle a lot.
Yeah.
It's like he jacked himself off into perfection. Oh, well, that was a little. All right.
Do you mind one more thing, because it is 9:02, I should probably get going. The last thing, I saw this yesterday. I know I wanted to mention it today because this came out yesterday in an interview. I follow this feed on Instagram if you guys are also interested. It's Marvel True Facts. It's pretty fun. They always share a bunch of stuff, but there's a little thing to read. But Avengers Endgame directors revealed Catherine Langford's role and reason why they cut it from the movie.
Who was Catherine Langford again?
What was she in? I'm gonna finish this and then I'll look at it.
You looked up both of us, none of us.
But the actress was meant to play an older version of Morgan Stark.
Yeah. Okay.
There was an idea that we had as in Anthony and Joe, saying that where Tony was going to go to a metaphysical way station where Thanos saw his daughter when he snapped his finger. There's going to be a future version of his daughter in that way station. The duo revealed, we showed it to a test audience and it was really confusing. The brothers continued, what we realized about it was we didn't feel an emotional association with the adult version of his daughter. It wasn't resonating with us on an emotional level, which is why we moved away with it. That I'm kind of looking forward to with how much media has been pushing Morgan Stark.
Yeah. And
I know I keep on seeing everywhere, and I know all my friends love her. She's in like 2 full minutes of the movie, maybe 3.
She's cute.
But they all love her, and she is cute. And it's just, I think that would be cool to see a gateway station.
What's a gateway station? That's what I'm confused about.
Like what Thanos saw when he saw little Nebula. Nebula.
Little
Gamora. I am sorry.
In my head, that's very vague on what that means. I think that's inside the Soul Stone. I think when Hawkeye wakes up with like the Soul Stone is so mysterious.
Yeah, it's purposefully vague.
They don't even go into like what it actually really does.
That's why
no one uses it.
No. That's confusing, and that irks me so much. It does. That does bother me. But I try to say, when I say bother, I like to believe that there's meaning behind it. These guys, they take these things, these movies apart and pick them piece to piece to piece. Thanos, man, Ethan, I know you gotta go.
Yeah, no, I'm still gonna listen.
I had such a good observation about Thanos when he saw himself getting beheaded. When he saw himself in 2014 say, I am inevitable. Did you see the look on his face? It was the most smug, fulfilling smile you'd ever seen on him.
Yeah,
and
of course.
He altered himself. He fucked himself up in the past. Him saying, I am inevitable, that one line brought this like overconfident, I am inevitable drive into him that turned him, that geared up the Mad Titan when he was still bashing people bloody before he became almost like this religious figure in Infinity War. You know, wait, let me just pause.
Oh, no, go.
No, it's good, dude. We're not live or anything. We can say goodbye. It's all right. I love you. Thank you for coming by.
See you. Have a good night.
Bye. Yeah, my ass hurts.
No, I'm sorry. There was something I heard.
This is uncomfortable. It's like, why don't we really fucking fix this, man? Thanos saying I'm inevitable. If he did, I really believe if he didn't say that and he said something like it was hard or like anything to show that the cockiness really.
I think he got overconfident from that.
Yeah.
From seeing that.
But I love that. I love that when Tony says when you mess with the past, it has a way of coming back. Yeah, it does, and that's the whole final conflict of the movie. And I don't know. I really love Thanos. Like, I think he was so well done. Yeah. The way they brought him into this movie was so clever. I didn't see that coming. Did you?
I did not. No, I think that was a great third act. I mean, just no matter how cheesy the whole everyone's here now fighting, every single character ever is just fighting this huge battle.
But that was earned.
I mean, that was so enjoyable. It was earned. It was earned. It was just a celebration of everything that came before. Everybody literally fighting on screen. So apparently, what I've heard is that something that's a little disappointing about the Infinity movies, the Infinity War and Endgame, to me, is that we got these 6 stones that control all of everything, the fundamental forces of the universe, and have all this amazing power. We see almost none of that at all. We see the Space Stone used a lot. We see the Power Stone used a lot. Time Stone, a little bit. Mind Stone, not at all. Soul Stone, not at all. What's the last one? Reality Stone, a little bit.
Wait, which
just
one?
Mostly for just aesthetic effects.
The Reality Stone?
Yeah. It's used to turn guns into bubbles, into just holograms.
He got really into the bubbles. And
I mean, Thanos only basically uses the Space Stone and the Power Stone as weapons, and we have no Mind Stone, no Soul Stone. The Time Stone is used once for the reversal.
Well, we'd like to imagine that the accumulative energy, it juggernauts the other stones. Maybe it makes the other stones more powerful.
What?
Having these stones that we don't know the powers of.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm not saying any plot hole or anything like that. It makes perfect sense to the character that he used those because those ones he's more familiar with, had more time to use them. Perfect sense. I'm still disappointed we didn't get to see anything else. It just seems so much like creative opportunity. It's like, I'm going to control your mind to do this. I'm going to overage this thing. Whatever Soul would do.
I agree. One thing that really bothered me was I really thought we were going to get more Gauntlet Thanos in this one. I imagined we'd have him with the stones more, hence we'd see more of those abilities. Mm-hmm. But Infinity War, it's its own standalone movie. It really sits on its own more than I thought it would compared to Endgame, and that. I mean, we really get to see the stones in action in Infinity War, and that's about it. We don't get to see much else aside from the snap and Thanos grabbing the Power Stone at one point. Mm-hmm. So it's very vague. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that too. Even following what you're saying, and kind of what I was, the whole Gauntlet thing is it's not. I read the Infinity War comic book. I haven't actually read a lot of comic books to be perfectly transparent.
Oh, yeah,
but I read that because it's this is very, very famous. I should understand what's going on.
I read that too.
And there's just the Gauntlet isn't just like a machine that's used that a snap does something. It allows someone to harness all of them, and supposedly in the movie that's what it does too. And he uses them different times, but the Gauntlet is always ever used as things like we put them together and then we press the snap button and then our wish comes true.
Yeah.
And there's just 3 snaps in all the movies, and that's all the Gauntlet is a snap machine.
Thanos uses it a lot in Infinity War, maybe even more than you even realize. There's these videos you can look up and it says every time he uses the stone, and even in subtle moments when he's interrogating his Nebula on the ship in the Infinity War, he's using the Space Stone Stone and the Power Stone to pull her apart.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
Like there's but I only know this because they put Infinity War on Netflix, and I watched it like 100 times. I've really watched it more than any of these movies, just because it's just a hell of a fucking movie to throw on. If you just put that on, if it's the first movie you've ever seen, you're just watching a movie about a giant purple dude just wrecking everybody you vaguely know about, like that's been on the screen. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, I don't like the Avengers. Like, well, go watch Infinity War. You can watch them get their asses kicked, and the bad guy wins. That's the only one you gotta watch.
Just end there, happy ending.
That's just very special. Zach, how you doing?
There's one more thing. I'm sorry. There's one more thing.
Good.
I want to say about it too. Last thing.
No, all good.
Apparently, I think it was the directors, the Russo brothers, that said the original plan for the snap was not everybody goes into dust. The original plan was that people would die and we'd see the deaths, but we'd see them in different ways, like for each stone. And like some would age into death, some would explode with power, some would just like change, and we'd see all the different stones of all these effects.
That would have been awesome.
And then they're like, it's just too much. It was like confusing to do, and just so much for the CGI.
It gives me the chills. It hurts.
And then they have everybody dust. But
dust is more. It's just more classy.
It's more classy, but it's also they never really felt like deaths to me.
No, they didn't.
They just felt okay. They ceased to exist. If I saw someone just age to death, or someone explode, or someone their head fall off, that would feel like a death.
Right.
I know. You have to. The sad part is, no matter what we're gonna know about some of these future releases, I wish they kept them under better wraps. I mean, at the end of the day, when you get Spider-Man, you don't think he's gonna be gone really, and they really maybe should have killed off a couple more of the main characters to bring them back at the end if they wanted us to be surprised. But I'd rather have the homage to the first Avengers in a full circle story, and just doing that story as well, as much justice as they could. Then I don't know. I agree. No, I agree. Zach.
Yeah, so
you don't have to say it. Zach's like the Andy Richter of the show.
No, he's not.
Well,
no, that makes
it. So the funny thing is like we've been recording for like 45 minutes of like good recording.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting here thinking to myself, I've been sitting here just nodding my head, like yes.
No, but it's
like,
no. Your presence is felt.
Right. But like I've just been sitting here like nodding my head, like yeah, like I agree with that.
You hear that, audience?
And
we need you to nod, or Zach's gonna disappear. Everybody, give Zach a nod right now. Nod with us, even if you think you can't feel it. Come on, everybody, nod for Zach. Are you nodding?
They're not doing it. They're not doing it. He's dying.
Zach is fading away. Zach's exploding. All right, sorry, Zach.
So what was your point?
Nothing.
No,
sorry.
My point was I was sitting here nodding, and I know it was like being input to us.
You wore a Star Wars shirt today?
Yeah.
On a day of Avengers? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Do you watch Game of Thrones?
No, I don't.
What's your point?
I'm so sorry. I'm the worst host.
It was like I was sitting here nodding, and it was like giving input to the room, but the people listening are like, so Zach was like, hey, I'm here, and then you never heard from him again.
No, you've been talking more than you realize.
I don't know.
You said a few things.
Well, yeah, but there was like a big 20-minute jump where I was just sitting here.
I'm gonna cut this part out.
Yeah. Every part where I talk is just gonna be cut out, and then it's just gonna be at the end. So I've been sitting here the whole time just nodding.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a Zach compilation as an alternate episode, buried, unlisted. No, I'm just kidding. That's so mean. Like, I'm not gonna make you the Toby from The Office. What the fuck is that? You're a great person, Zach. I love you. Dave, fuck you. No.
What?
This is just getting not funny. Fuck you isn't funny. I don't like fuck is funny. I don't like dirty fucks.
Good. let's talk about plot holes.
Dave, with the directional shift. You don't want to talk
I'm
about
very
dirty
organizational.
fucks? You're very good. I like you in that chair, Dave. That's a chair.
I'm actually lounging. The listeners don't know
He
this,
is.
but I'm very centrally lounging.
They don't know you're lounging. They don't know I'm nodding. You know.
We're upgrading the audio. Every episode, you might hear a little bit of improvement.
I feel like, can you hear this crackling in the mic?
Not really, no.
Oh, no. Because I can hear it, but I don't know if I'm hearing it or if it's, like, playing back.
No. Can you hear my voice okay? Because I'm kind of far away from
I
the
can
mic.
hear you real well.
You're
Okay,
great.
So
let's
plot
think.
holes.
Well, plot holes.
We kind of touched on it at the beginning. There's something, I don't know. I still, I understand what you guys were talking about with like needing the module, but I'm also kind of confused because in the movie they did not need a module. They just had the suit with the PIM particles, like Tony.
With a thing on his hand.
Yeah, Tony and Steve
Yeah.
were at the Battle of New York, and like, oh, we have to go back further, and they were there just standing in the street, and they like had the one more jet, and they didn't need the module, they didn't need any platform.
Going back, they didn't.
Going back, they did.
And then they go, but he has
Do
to.
you need one for you need one for going forward? Did they
See,
say that?
that's the thing, because, like, when Ethan, right?
Ethan, yeah.
Yeah. So like, when Ethan was saying it, it made sense to me because when I was watching the movie, I realized it too. I was like, so they've gone back and come forward X amount of times, and every time they have left present and then re-entered present, they were on the pad.
I imagine that the reason they need the things is to get back to that one timeline, or they'll never be able to get back to a specific timeline in that exact place and time, or they'll have a place and time.
I can follow that. And
It's like a tiny little crevice in time they need to get back to.
right.
Yeah, the thing on the wrist, you mean, right? Or do you mean the pad?
Well, both. Technically, the thing on the wrist can make them smaller to go back, but the pad is basically the one place that they can return in that 1 minute to be able to accommodate to not having another one of them sitting around with them.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It makes some sense, yeah, because that was like another thing, that was the thing I was thinking about too. Like, because every time they go back and come back, they're on the pad, and then at the end, Captain America is, Steve is 200 feet away on a bench,
I mean, if you think of Steve as that much older, I mean, anything could have happened with the knowledge of all of these events with the people that he knew, knowing what they know.
Right.
It's just easy to think that instead of having to go back to the pad, he was able to just go back to that point in time with the information that he... You know what I mean? Like, he could have been working with Pym or Stark.
In like an alternate timeline?
In the alternate timeline that he lived in and spent his life in. He spent his life in an alternate timeline.
I think you're right. I think that makes the most sense because it makes no sense if he spent his life in this timeline because that would just change everything.
The Russos confirmed it.
Okay, that he was in an alternate timeline?
When he went back, he technically went back to a point where he was frozen, but once he's there living his life in that time, he is living in an alternate timeline. So there might have been in that timeline the frozen Cap awakes and he's still there, but that was a whole timeline that he lived in, and then he had to jump back to our timeline to give the shield to Sam.
Right.
And maybe live the rest of his life because Peggy probably died of natural causes.
Right, and that was a good point that you had earlier, too, that he ages so slowly.
Yeah.
And seeing as he left as a, fair middle-aged man and comes back as an old man, like, how long was that he was gone?
I don't know.
Because technically, like, what would present time be in Endgame? Like 2025 or something, like around there?
Around there, yeah.
Okay, so
24, 25.
right, so like 2020s.
I mean,
even if you went back to the 70s,
yeah,
we're looking at like what would that be?
50
years, which he wouldn't be that old. So it makes sense that in his alternate timeline,
Well, I don't think he went back in his alternate timeline. I don't think he went back to the 70s when he saw her. He went back to when he was supposed to come back in like the 30s.
so he went all the way back.
I think that's the only thing that makes sense, because then
50s.
I don't think he came.
Well, because when him and Tony went
It was
back,
World War II, so it wasn't the 50s.
right? No, when him and Tony went back to get the stuff from the base.
Yeah, that was the 70s.
That was the 70s.
That was the 70s.
Well,
So we're saying he went even farther back to original.
I would think so.
Could have been the 70s. The only reason I say the 70s is if he didn't have enough pin particles, he might have had to stay at that one because it would have been his last stop
Before he came back.
like on his route.
Yeah, I assume he had a lot. And I think when he danced with her, like when at the 70s, I think she had a little bit of white in her hair.
Is this fat?
And I don't think she did when he was dancing with her.
Yeah, it's put on.
She had white in her hair in the 70s.
If I remember correctly.
At the end scene where they're dancing in the house,
Yeah, I think she looked younger there than she did in the 70s scene.
she looked younger while they were dancing.
While they were dancing in the very final
She
scene.
did.
I think so. I think it was an earlier point in time.
Okay, well then that would make sense. Then.
There's a lot of confusion on the time travel, and all the criticisms I've seen are of the time travel. But if you get a piece of paper and you draw the branches out, it makes sense. The only thing that's not explained is Captain America's wicked story, which leaves room for they want to see if Chris Evans wants to come back and play Captain America in 20, 30, 40 years, he can. And there's a story there that we can watch him. I mean, people reprise their roles. Have you seen the latest Rocky movie?
That's a good point.
Did you take a piece of paper and draw out all these branches?
No, I've watched a lot of nerds talking about it in circles.
What? So derogatory.
It's just like a guy with a whiteboard. He's like,
No, but I saw a bunch of
here's
nerds
now.
do it.
Well, they do. They show you in the movie when I've seen the movie 3 times now. So when Bruce shows it to Bruce is explaining it to the group, Ant-Man and Black Widow, and also when Bruce goes back to the Battle of New York and is talking to Tilda Swinton, master of
The ancient one or something.
Ancient one. She does a little diagram of places in time, branches. I mean, it's just it makes sense. It just makes sense. They did it in Dragon Ball Z, and that is very confusing. No, they did. You wanna like be like, what the fuck? Why are they? They're bouncing between. Oh, okay, because the past happened. I'm not making any sense right now. I'm gonna.
Well, I mean, it's hard to do time travel because time travel doesn't make sense. I think they probably did the most logical one they could, which is you cannot change your past. When you change something, it becomes an alternate timeline. I think that's the only thing they can do without absolutely logic breaking down.
They address Back to the Future even. I mean, I like just how Tony nonchalantly discovers time travel. And there's a line that's very subtle there when he tells Pepper that he invented time travel, and I didn't catch it the first time. He says, I want to just take it in a little box and throw it in the ocean and maybe forget that, I ever found it, and then come back into bed with you. And then she says, but would you be able to rest? Would you ever be able to rest? Mm-hmm. And that's, cue to the last line that she says to him, well, you can rest now, Tony. We're safe.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Actually, can we segue off of that observation into like all of the running Tony stuff? Because I mean, number one, the whole rest thing obviously refers to that he's Insomniac basically the entire Marvel series.
Correct.
That he's always working, he's never resting. And number two, you saw it 3 times, right? You keep mentioning
Endgame?
Yeah, you saw it 3 times. So I can't remember which hand did he use to do the snap. Was it his left or his right?
It was his left hand.
Left hand.
It was he's had problems with his left hand the entire
foreshadowing.
Everything.
Right.
Everything.
I don't think that was the original plan with it, but I think they took advantage of it.
The hand takes damage. It takes a lot of damage in battle.
Just broken, hurts, just
you even
not feeling right, numb.
Yeah, you see in the movies when it happens. Like there's times in each movie where like he gets caught in the Avengers in the Quinjet. In Age of Ultron, he's coming out of like the one of you see him have it, and then he's in a sling in Civil War after the fight.
Yeah.
And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, he's in a sling, or like it's something. He's holding his arm during the scene, like he's like
stressing out and like his hands going numb, and like it's always the left one.
I love Tony Stark's story arc. Tony Stark's story arc. Tony Stark's story arc was my favorite of all time. Little reason, not no rhyme. Gonna go all night long. Gonna tell you about Tony Stark's big slong.
Oh no, it took a turn.
That did, but no,
It was like,
Iron Man. Yeah, really
So
bad.
that penis thing.
Yeah, peeing. Brought that back to dicks.
Well, I just love how the Tony and Steve are just mirrors of each other, because Tony grew by learning to be selfless, and Steve grew by learning to be selfish.
Yes.
correct.
Everything that came.
That's great.
Rogers, everything special from you came out of a test tube, and then he says, "You're not a man. You're made of, you're a arms dealer. They're mean to each other, and they call each other out on the true,
Rightfully so.
the true issues." Wait, what? What did you say?
You said you're not a man, you're an arms dealer, and it triggered just Fall Out Boy.
Oh,
I am an arms dealer.
now we're gonna get sued by Fallout Boy.
No, it was less than
Shut
10
down the podcast.
Yeah.
It was less than 10 seconds.
So let's just talk about this story.
My friend just saw the movie and just texted me, Cap got his last dance, cry face.
He sure did.
Get his last dance. And he probably got more after that, too.
He probably got laid a
I
lot.
hope.
Okay, true.
I
Sorry.
hope.
I'm gonna delete that. I have the power to delete everything I'm like completely subconscious
That's
over,
true.
and then I leave everyone. This is fake news, guys. No, I told people at the beginning of the show I didn't edit, and then I just edit the fuck out of it now.
I don't edit anything.
Like I edited the last one so much, it was like I don't even know. I don't know if you can tell like how many different takes I did on this fucking Avengers episode. Who cares though? Tony Stark. Tony Stark. I wanted to talk about the whole story arc of the Mr. Stark, but I keep finding the rhyme in the arc reactor.
Arc does rhyme with Stark. I'll agree with you there.
God. You're getting a little fuzzy.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's causing that.
But no.
You can edit that out.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know, man. I have so many feelings about how in Age of Ultron it makes just a little bit better of a movie seeing Tony's desperate attempt to try and prevent this, seeing Tony's PTSD in Iron Man 3 from the events, and seeing him have this drastic fear of space and this, like, knowing that more will come and not knowing how to deal with that fact. You gotta think it's kind of cool that he goes into space and like fights the Overlord with the Infinity Gauntlet, goes toe to toe, almost wins but loses, then invents time travel and saves humanity and sacrifices himself. Instead of he was selling arms to kill people, he came full circle. Came.
Don't.
This is not funny. I hate this. I hate that when I go there. I don't know why I want to go there with you, Dave. Zach, are you leaving?
I am gonna leave.
You said too many sex jokes and now Zach's
Zach,
leaving.
can I segue? Did I make you?
No. All right, guys.
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
Good night,
Good
my
night.
friend. I know you got to probably get going soon, too,
Pretty
right?
soon. We can wrap up.
Yeah, we can wrap it up. How do you want to wrap it up?
Wrap it up.
Not like that.
Well, I like how we have guests. All right, Zach, we'll put an applause when you leave. Yeah, Zach. Oh, he couldn't stay.
And applause.
Now that we're alone.
So you haven't seen the Spider-Man preview yet?
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, I've
only
seen
Zach's the one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
I was very surprised because I thought when they undid the snap when they were going to do before this came out, I assumed when they undid the snap, they would just undo
The time.
everything, all the time in between, but they kept the time. They kept the 5 years, and now so there's half the world that are 5 years older
So many
than
issues.
this other half. I mean, it's insane.
Partners, wives,
And
finding
also,
new husbands.
I've got to imagine that world governments have broken down during
Did you
these
see any
5
videos
years.
about this on YouTube? I saw some about this just the other day. I need to start writing down the videos that I like and then kind of start talking about so I could plug them. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Keep going.
I was just saying, it just seems during these 5 years that society has probably changed so much. There are probably reorganization of governments, social structures
Yeah.
have broken down with the loss of a random assortment of half of the population, and now we're throwing, now in that chaotic system that's finally stabilized, we're doubling the population again. How can the world not end?
It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better now.
It's not going to in the movies, though. They're just going to gloss over it.
You really think so?
I think they're I think they're going to reference it, but I don't think it's going to be as disastrous as it would realistically be.
You think it's just all going to go a little bit back to dandy?
I think, things are going back to as normal, like stuff like, oh, I'm 5 years old now. That's kind of weird. It's just something. It's just going to be this weird event that is going to be referenced, but it's not going to have the repercussions that it realistically would.
I think you're wrong. I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm not trying to disagree with you just to disagree with you. Mm-hmm. I really think this is going to be the basis of the archetype supervillain, the Spidey supervillains, the over-the-top not Magneto, the guy we're about to see.
Mysterio.
I mean, we don't see characters like Mysterio up to this point. We don't ever see these wacky supervillainy. We're not going to, Vulture's kind of, he's still in the universe. We're going to be getting more villains similar to like comic booky villains. So how does that happen? There's going to be a lot of underworld stuff that was going on in this time. I think the people are going to have a lot to deal with in this world. I think Spidey's whole story is going to be about him dealing with that 5-year gap.
No, I agree. I think they'll deal with it, but I don't think it will be realistically the repercussions that would happen if it happened in the real world.
Like world effects.
Unless he goes like, oh, we're going on our school vacation to France because France has broken down. And now it's just a no man's land, but the architecture's still there. Then I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Wow.
Because it's this thing. People disappear for 5 years. Societies, I'm sure, must have broken down with that random absence, and then they double the population again. There's no way
that
the world
this.
continues on as before.
There's no guarantees that if we have opened up a multiverse, that Spider-Man Far From Home even takes place in this one. What if the snap happened, ripped a hole in the multiverse, and we're on the other side of one of these other universes in this one? So, you know what I mean? It's freaking
Tony
possible.
Stark is dead in this one, so it's fine. Probably the same one.
Fuck you. No,
I'm still
right. You're right.
They're, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this multiverse thing because I see it's definitely the next creative direction to go to add all these things in, but also there's the possibility that Mysterio is just lying about it.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm
He's not.
hoping.
He's just like the con man, like he is in the comics.
That's probably what it's going to be, ideally. But but when you think it's ideally that like almost the whole audience thinks that that's going to happen, and it makes you think that they're going to like pull the rug out from under you, like double time you on that, and make him good. I don't know. It breaks your brain. It makes you think all day and more about it. It's like.
And we won't know what goes on until the movie comes out.
Yeah, I mean, Endgame, I'm still processing it. I think we're going to be processing it for a while.
Let's have a summary statement about your feelings for Endgame.
Can you start? You do one first. And then I'll do it.
My summary statement is I loved it as a celebration of the franchise so far. My suspension of disbelief can get past all like the plot holes and stuff like that just because it's such an enjoyable flick. And I do appreciate that it was a conclusion and a summation instead of just more setting up things to come. It was a bookend to what has come so far, so everything is together, and I appreciate that.
Can you go like say a little bit more?
I was pretty good. I don't want to add any more to it.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to say my final thoughts and talk us out.
Oh, the music. Okay.
Yeah. My final thoughts is when I saw this movie, I was ready to be sad and mourn it. Like mourn the feeling of I'm losing my favorite characters. I'm going to a different place in my heart. Now, I mean, these movies contain a lot of memories. I really associate it with good times in my life, growing up, learning a lot from the life values. I mean, a little bit. I mean, they're superhero movies, but they just drive you out. They take you out of a world. You're going into another dimension, your own multiverse. But I also feel like, in a sense, this is the end. I'm ready to go on to something else. Like, the whole podcast isn't just going to be about the MCU or Marvel. I'm ready to start taking it in a different direction. It's not that this is just going to be less centric. I wanted to get these episodes out of the way because they're a big part of me, but I really felt that resolution when Iron Man snapped his fingers. He made that sacrifice. Not just for, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't know how to draw that back to me. I'm not like.
Not just for me.
Yeah, like. No, it was just cool. Fuck, I'm thinking really bad at these. I need a new inspirational song. Dave, can you talk over it? I want a little Dave on
This is your moment, man.
But you gotta have some, like, you gotta have a moment too.
I led into this moment.
You did. You really did. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, for all the journeys. Thank you, Chris Evans, and thank you, Joe Russo, Anthony Russo. And why am I thanking you? You're millionaires. I have nothing, and I'm just praising you like everyone else in the world. And this is an oversaturated market, and I care too much about this, and I need to start caring about things that I'm creating now. It's time to move on. It's time to become my own hero. I've seen the heroes on screen. I've seen the people. I've seen what people can become. I've seen Edward Norton turn a roll down and probably regret it. Probably really regrets it. I've seen Spider-Man join the MCU, and I never thought he would, but he did. He could. There's a lot more to come. A lot more to come. Too many comes. Don't come. Dave, help me.
And there you have it, our very own trip around the multiverse and my own podcast, Mr. Honest, the podcast that I started podcasting on. If you'd want to hear more of that, it's on all your favorite podcasting directories, Mr. Honest, wherever you get your podcasts. How many times can I say podcast? I will be back next week, and TBD on what I'll be covering. It may be Venom, it may be not. The reason I haven't done Venom yet, it is because I am not sure whether this entity will be in the MCU or not. And I would like your opinion. Are you interested in me covering Venom? If you're dying to hear it, marvelmaniacpod@gmail.com. We're on Twitter, marvelmaniacpod, Instagram, and TikTok. I've yet to be posting a little bit on those medias, but we're getting everything geared up. I'm really excited to be covering the MCU, and it's my pleasure to be having you as my audience. I love Marvel, and I know you do too. I know you're out there listening, and I am so thankful to have you here. And no matter what, we're going to be talking about it. It's just a matter of what and not when. We're going to be here every week. If not 1 week, the week after. We missed a week or two here and there, but we've been here all year. And boy, oh boy, we got a lot to come. Eternals comes out a week away, a week and a half away. A week from tomorrow on this release date. People will be going to the midnight premieres here already. Here we are. And I just think that's absolutely amazing. We are in a marvelous time. We are in a marvelous time. And that is where we leave it today. We've launched a Patreon. It's patreon.com/MarvelManiac. We have one Patreon right now. His name's Mike Finney. He's one of the nicest guys in the world. Thank you, Mike, for being our Patreon. I owe you an extra piece of content from last week. I'm going to get it up this week, along with something extra this week as well. You can find me streaming every week at twitch.tv/Mr. Honest Podcast. I take a lot of pride in streaming. I love my video games. And I play Fortnite. I have a lot of the Marvel skins. Not to brag, but I have quite a few of the Marvel skins. Not all of them, though. No, I love playing as Captain America. It's pretty awesome. They don't represent the butt quite enough, though. I'll just say it. America's ass, it's not represented. It's been told by quite a few of my friends and lady friends. All friends. And it's just not good. It's just not good. I'll say that. I'll just agree on behalf of everyone. They needed to make his butt more friendly to the movies, and Chris Evans, it wasn't acknowledged. I think Chris Evans would have sued. I don't mean to go this raunchy on this podcast. I think it might have been the Mr. Honest influence. That brand of my content needs to be pushed aside. Marvel Maniac is a little more user friendly, and we're gonna just stop there. Thank you for being here. I really, really do appreciate your presence, and it is felt, heard, loved. I love you 3000. Reference to the movie we just talked about today. Nailed it. amazing, literally centerpiece of this whole series, and we're only launching off of this thing into the future of the franchise. Whether or not it's a failure or not, this movie put down a brick foundation for us to make, at least watch another 10 to 15 years worth of movies, if the next 10 are bad, really bad. And that's starting with this Spider-Man movie being the worst movie ever. That's the timeline in which we get 15 really bad more movies. Now, if there's 15 really good more movies, we're going to get like 25 to 36 to 40, maybe 50, 60 to 80 to 100 more Marvel movies. And by the time we're all old people in diapers, or we're like, we will be a hive mind, and Marvel will just be infinite, and we will be one with the multiverse of the MCU, and then we will all be infinite Marvel maniacs, and our podcast will be one, and we will be in the MCU ourselves. Avengers, disassemble.